all these amazing stories. So I was like, what can I share that they haven't? I mean, what can I say that they can't say? But then something hit me, and there's something I can talk about that they definitely can't. Being a mom. Well, I've not in this lifetime, right? But being a mom is what I can share about. Being a mom yogi in this everyday world and trying to keep up with that. And trying to maintain a spiritual path, which is pretty interesting when you try to manage and juggle, with many things happening in your life. I know some of you can relate because you're parents, and some of you are not parents, but you do have somebody you're looking after or taking care of. So you can relate with that too. In my particular case, I always try to remember that everything I am doing or everything I'm deciding to do is being followed and observed by two sets of eyes. So that means that I have to be very aware and very careful about what I do and say and share and practice every day. Okay. So basically, this is it. It's being a yogi in the everyday life. And I hope you find this talk interesting. I would love for you guys to participate with me. So if you can have like a little piece of paper and a pen or pencil close, that will be super helpful. Okay. So can you change the slide, Frank? Thank you. So maybe this is the question. If you are following the path of the yogic life, this is a question you can be asking yourself a lot. Am I a yogi? What's a yogic life? What does it mean to be a yogi? Or how can I make a difference in this world? Because there's a lot of people who are practicing yoga right now, but just the asana part of it. But if you're here and you're practicing and you're coming to class and you're reading the texts and you're trying to follow certain styles of life, adjusting to the yogic life, there's a little difference. So sometimes it's quite challenging because trying to be a yogi in the everyday life puts you in your place a lot and it can be harsh. And you're constantly facing situations where you're asking yourself, I mean, what does it mean to be a yogi in this particular moment? How am I supposed to react to this particular situation? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? So, this is not something that I'm going to answer for you today. You will have your own personal answer. But in the search of information for this particular class, I found some tools that can be quite interesting to use. Because believe me, I mean, I've been asked a lot of times if I get mad or if I ever get envious or upset. And believe me, I do. I mean, I do in ways that totally freak out my world and can change the perspective of the things that I do all the time. So just by being aware of what's going on, you're doing the work. Can you change the slide, please? Thank you. Because we have this emotional spectrum, right? That goes from anger to happiness to sadness to joy. And being a yogi, for me, does not mean that I have to be walking on sunshines all the time. I wish I could. I mean, I wish I could be Lady Naguma today and be floating in the sky. But no, I get angry and I get sad and I get really frustrated a lot of times. And for me, that's what it means to be a yogi. Not that I don't feel those emotions, but that I learn to identify them when I feel them. So being aware of what's going on in my mind with all these clashes, all these negative emotions, all these afflictions, mental afflictions, help me to have an emotional compass that lets me know where am I standing. So that helps me a lot because it allows me to know what kind of reaction I should be aiming for. If I am getting super angry at a certain moment, then I remember little eyes observing me all the time, or my students observing me all the time, or my friends, or anybody who trusts me as a teacher or as a guide is observing me. So, this emotional spectrum that you can manage is really great to be aware of because when you're doing the hard work, you are reaching out for the tools that you have been able to comply and put together in your box. So when these clashes arise, you say, hey, this is where meditation goes. Hey, this is where asana comes. Hey, this is where I can just sit and study for a little while. Or this is where I can just back off from the situation and try to rearrange my reactions and my emotions to what's going on. So, not because you practice yoga or you teach yoga, or in my case, are a psychologist too, means that you're going to be super unrealistic, happy, person walking around. If that would be the case, we're already be angels. We're doing the hard work right now. We're trying to observe and follow the teachings of our teachers. And that's amazing because that means you're planting the great seeds. Just for doing the little efforts here and there to understand what's going on with yourself, you're doing great. So if you're here with me with this little struggle or big struggle, congratulations because we're doing the work. So I was searching for some help. Here in YSI, we just love to be geek and study a lot. So I was trying to review where in the texts are we reviewing what means to be a yogi and how can be a yogi be shown in the outside world. And this is where I could find. I would love for you to share or at least take a little time to analyze how is that you feel about these verses and how did they apply to your everyday life. Because we hear the Sanskrit, we read the Sanskrit, we come to Earl's class, we try to understand what's going on. But then when we try to reflect on our lives, it feels completely different, right? So if you want to take a little piece of paper and a pencil, as I did before, you can read these and try to work with me in a way where we can go deeper into what it means to be a yogi. All right? And I hope I'm not going very fast for you, Sophie, and for you, Anastasia. Just make moves or something. Okay, awesome. So, I think it showed different in this kind. It doesn't show very well in the presentation, does it? Okay. Is there anyone here? Because we are very brave. I know we have been learning Sanskrit for a while. Does anyone want to read? Or do you want me to call you out? Veronica, do you want to give it a try?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yam sa nya nyasam miti prahar yogam tam vitihi padava. And I cannot read the last line.
Thank you. It says Nahi Asanyasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kaskana. And I hope I did it well. And I'm glad that Earl's not here. He will be killing me right now. Thank you very much, Veronica. Great effort. Can you switch the slide, Frank, please? What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, a sound of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. This is part of the Bhagavad Gita. This is a book that I'm not really sure when, but I heard that Geshe Michael will cover as the next course sometime soon, uh, hopefully. And I studied it before. And this verse for me was very enlightening. It just says that in order to be a yogi, you have to renounce to the desire for greater gratification. So if you can give me some idea, or if you can write it, what does it mean, renunciation, for you? Can you switch the slide, please, Frank? What does it look for you? I mean, what motivated you to say enough? I mean, I need to change. I need to seek for a higher truth. I need to come to a class. I need to make a change. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to review it. And just think about it, or remember the moment where you were motivated to make a change. Okay, so I'm going to ask, does anybody feel like they would like to share their thoughts around this idea? You can raise your hand. Remember, I don't bite. I talk a lot, but I don't bite. No? Okay. Maybe change slide, please, Mike. For me, this is it. This is the moment where I had my renunciation. My first child, the big one you see here, big one, her name is Anna Pao. Um, she was born with a very particular condition that it's called giant congenital melanocytic nevus. I know the name is hard. Sorry, translators. Um, which is nothing but a giant mole that covered 2/3 of her body. From the moment she was born, my life changed. I mean, I didn't know if she was going to be alive for long or not. I knew she needed a lot of surgeries and a lot of medical attention. So that's a moment where my life changed. I had a totally different perspective about life, what meant to be good or bad, or fair or unfair. And I searched for a higher truth and a purpose. I wanted to look for something that meant more for others, not just for me. And that was the moment where I started searching for a yogic path. It didn't mean that I didn't practice yoga before, because I did. It just meant that my yoga took a deeper meaning and a deeper sense. So, this for me is the reason why I do what I do. I mean, she is my propel, and I don't think she knows it. Um, she is why I help so many moms. If you know a little bit about me, you know that I work with a lot of moms all the time. She's the reason why I started an organization to support families with similar situations. She's the reason why I always search for a deeper truth and try to be better all the time. She's my greatest teacher. She transformed me. She's now 11. She's a preteen and very annoying and very healthy. And if you want to switch slides, Frank, you can see her here. Okay, so she has grown into becoming a beautiful little girl. So I'm going to read a little of what you have been sharing here. Seti says, when I see my mom in a bad situation or financial problems or health, I know I have to work hard. Yes, Sari, thank you for sharing. This is exactly the moment that let us know that we have to work harder. We have to go deeper into our practice, not just for ourselves, but for the sake of those people who are around us and that we care a lot about. Thank you very much for sharing. Okay, so let's go to the next verse that I found. I'm sorry that in the moment when I changed from where I created the slide to the PDF, it moved the words. So I'm really sorry about this. Does anybody want to read the part that you can actually read? Shiyun, would you like to try?
Okay, I want to try. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ben Hur in Matananes. Tasya. Okay.
Thank you. Sophie, thank you for sharing in the chat. You can all see the verse in the chat. This is also from the Bhagavad Gita, the Shloka 6.6. It says, Bandur Atmat Namanas Tasya Yinat Mai Vatmana Yita Atmanas tu Satrutve Vartetat Maiva Satruvat. Next slides, please, Frank. It says, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy. And I think we can all relate here, right? Can we switch slides, please, Frank? So, how's your mind doing? How friends are you with your mind? I'm going to give you a minute to reflect on this sloka. If you want to read it over, it's in the chat. Thank you, Sophie. Does anybody want to share? How do you feel about your mind? Okay, I can tell you. Okay, are you gonna share, Shijun?
Yeah.
Amazing,
Can
thank
I
you.
share something? Yeah. Okay, thanks. After I read this sentence, it felt very hit me. I think it hit me because every day when I open my eyes, my mind has a lot of songs. They talk about everything. They talk about like, whoa. Okay.
Mhm.
I try to make me slides. I try to make me calm, but I can't do that. Everybody see me. He stand here. He doesn't do anything. But I know in my mind there's two voices. They talk loudly. They talk every day. After I sleep, before I sleep, they talk about it, and after I sleep, they stopped. So when I see this sentence, I think we need to counter our mind. We need to control our mind and make my mind to my best friends. And if I doesn't do that. My mind is the greatest enemy to me. It make me not can know the true imaging. They let me not can find the true imaging. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. You're right. The mind could be an enemy, right? Or it could be a friend. It all depends on how your seeds are acting that day. Thank you very much for sharing. We have also Veronica in the chat. My mind is very calm while listening to the lecture now, but it can be really busy during the day. Yes, the ability to focus our mind helps us to calm it down, but then sometimes it just goes crazy, right? We would just let it go free. Thank you, Vero. Amy, so great to read you. I used to be at war with my mind, but now I have developed a friendship and watchfulness. That's beautiful. Thank you, Amy. That's great. In my case, my mind is bipolar, kind of what Shi is saying. Sometimes we get really well and along, and sometimes I totally hate her. And I say she because I know it's a her. And sometimes she hates me, you know? I mean, it's like all over me with lists and judgment and criticizing. And sometimes it's really cool. She was like, okay, Paola, let's just chill and be friends. So this is why meditation is so great for us yogis, right? I mean, we hear it all the time. We have our teacher saying, hey, meditate, go to the cushion, meditate, meditate. And we're like, I don't have time. But we need to get along with our mind. We need to know what's going on and who's taking the wheel and who's driving around. Because if you're not in control and you're not taking the wheel of your own car, who's driving you? I mean, where are you going? So we need to know the whole spectrum, as I said before. All these emotions, all these thoughts, all these clashes, how to manage them. And meditation is a wonderful tool, along with asana and all the other angas from the Ashtanga practice, right? Pranayama and meditation and all of it until we reach what we could call our samadhi, our best version. That's what we're aiming for. So as yogis in this modern world, when I read this sloka, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean if this was written thousands of years ago, it still feels current, as Shiyun says. It still feels like it's happening right now. So the struggle of the human mind is always present. Daria, professionally ignoring teacher recommendations. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes we feel like, no, I know better. I have so many things to do and so many plans that I have to go to that I will meditate after. And then you totally don't. And then you totally feel like you're failing in the practice. But the good note in this case is that when you continue practicing, you go back to your cushion or your mat, your mind settles. So we know the remedy. We know the cure. We're just too stubborn to take it sometimes. Okay, let's go to the next verse. You guys have heard about this book, haven't you? Okay, thank you, Sophie, for putting it in the chat. Anybody wants to read it? Irina, I'm looking at you straight in the eye. Would you want to try?
Yes.
Thank you.
Atyahara prayasacha prajalpo niyamagrahah yanasangasha laulam cha shadhiryoga vinasyati.
Thank you. Yay.
Thank you.
There are 6 things that will make your practice. Can you switch slides? Sorry, Frank. Thank you. There are 6 things that will make your practice yoga deteriorate, which are excessive food or other stimulation, taking trips outside, meaningless talk, not keeping your commitments, being around groups of people, and restlessness or inconsistency in your practice. Wow. Can you switch to the next slide, please? How's the commitment partment doing? I mean, we read this verse and boy, do we fail. I mean, being, again, a mom in this world where things are active and not everybody is a yogi and not everybody does the practice. And I have to go to school activities and presentations and situations that are having me interact with lots of people all the time can easily overload my body and make me forget that I do hold a practice. I don't know if you have felt the same thing, but sometimes you want to stretch yourself so much into different situations in order to fit in into what the real world is that you fail. And not just physically, right? You fail mentally as well. And then I get super overloaded and I have to back off and rearrange my commitments and rearrange what I feel is most important for me and then go back to my practice. This is very complex for moms when we are living in big cities and kids, ask us for many different things. Or if you have a lot of friends who do not have a spiritual path in any different way, it doesn't mean they have to be a yogi, but they don't have a particular spiritual path. Or when the people who surround you just have different kind of activities, or they like to enjoy different kind of situations that are not necessarily, I don't know, complementary to what you do. So when I go into the situations, I analyze what I am doing, that I'm failing into my commitments and I have to go back to them. I'm thankful for the opportunity to realize that I am still a practicing yogi, that I am not there yet, that I still have a lot of work to do. Because when you are doing when you're following a spiritual path and you have a teacher and you do the asana, you do the meditation, and you come to this kind of classes and courses, I mean, sometimes we can feel that we have like a higher spiritual judgment, right? Like you see other people and you're like, I practice. Hey, I do these things. You don't. I know that. You don't. But hey, guess what? We don't either. So we forget. And the yogic compass is a beautiful tool that always can bring you back to balance, can always help you analyze and realize what is going on with yourself. A human in work in progress. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about what this thing means to you. Remember the verses in the chat. Thanks, Sophie. And if you can share, that would be amazing. Thank you, Anastasia, for sharing your lesson. Claudia, honey, do you want to share something in the chat or with your beautiful voice?
Hey. So is the question like I didn't got the whole idea of the question.
It is about how do you feel about these things? Like if you heard this verse and you're like, these are the 6 things that will make your practice fail, and you read them, how do you feel about that?
Mhm. So what I'm thinking in generally is okay, maybe someone I got lost here.
Okay, for example, these are the 6 things that are going to make your practice deteriorate. Okay. If you eat a lot, if you stimulate yourself a lot, if you travel a lot, if you keep meaningless talk, you gossip, blah, 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 blah. If you're around groups of people that are not following your same commitments, or if you have inconsistency in your practice.
Yeah, that's true. And I heard all of those already. And so I often check myself with this. But very often our habits take over. For example, okay, for me now, I know like eating meat is a bad thing, and I'm sure about that. But the habit when I decide to stop eating meat, like just jumping at me so strongly, like it hooks me. Same I think with eating a lot, and yeah, but it's true that you should have some kind of reminder of this, how you told this compass, but how to keep it always on focus, because so many things and so many teachings and so many new practices. And what I found for me is good to take 1 or 2. Like I took a challenge to be thankful, and I write 10 things I'm thankful for, and I made it a chat. So now there are many people doing this 30-day of Thanksgiving challenge, and I often could forget, but then it becomes a good habit. So I think how would I work with this is at least to take 1 in focus, because otherwise, until it becomes a new habit, because it's hard to build a new habit, like not to chat with other people. So you should like take this practice for a day, or I would take this on focus. Yeah, like today I just work on myself not to gossip with friends if I have this habit, or today I keep a focus not to overeat, or today and so this way it helps to keep this focus until it becomes your habit that you're not thinking about. That's what I thought now.
Thank you. It's really helpful. Yes. I mean, as we said, we have this yogic compass that is always telling us, hey, this way. No, this way. No, this way. And we're failing. I mean, as I said, we're still in practice, right? But it's great to be aware of what we're doing. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I have a couple of comments in the chat that I'm going to read. Yes, Veronica, you can ask a question. Just give me a moment. Let me just read the other 2 and we can go to your question. Nazir says, I would like to say everyone is a yogi, just at a different levels on the path. Yeah, totally, Nazir. I mean, this is what the texts say, the ancient texts about yoga. But I mean, this is what we're aiming for, right? We're still in the practice mode. We're still in the learning mode. We're still trying to become that best version of ourselves, whatever that means for everybody. I mean, we all have a different goal in our minds to what we want to become. So I think that's very personal, and we all can do it in different ways. Thank you. Why being around groups of people will make yoga fail, says Shiyun. Okay, this is what I can understand from the verse, okay? Sometimes if your commitment, and remember, this is from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is a book that is really about engaging in the yogic practice. And yogic practice could be spiritual path. So if you're really committed to your spiritual path and you're surrounded by people who are constantly pulling you into something that distracts you from studying, distracts you from practicing, distracts you from meditating, or making you do things that you would not normally do, that could be making you fail in that sense, you know? So, but it's something that we all do, I think, as we grow, we start deciding which groups of people are best for us, right? Like you say, I don't want to hang out with these people anymore. I don't think this is helpful for me. And it's like a natural thing we end up doing. But in this particular verse, they just make it a little bit more clear. Does it make sense? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Veronica.
Thank you, Teacher Paula. My question is about kids, because I think you have a lot of experience with mom and kids. Because recently, I have a niece. She stayed with me for like recently, and I found out she recently have a strong emotion, like maybe she has a lot of anxiety, and she got mad with maybe her parents or something, but I trying to like comfort her, but I found out it's so hard for like communicate with the kids like that. So like what I'm doing now is just give her space and try not to bother her or talk to her. So my question is, how do you deal with the kids like this?
Thank you. I have an angry kid. She's very emotional. I always think it's funny because she was born in the most welcoming, beautiful space. And when she was born, she was uber red and crying desperately. She looked very mad. So I think it's everybody's seeds. But what I can tell you as a mom, in this case, you as an aunt, try to think how in your life were you put in the same situation as a child. Okay. I see myself in these little two girls all the time, like all the time. I ask my parents for forgiveness more in the last 6 months than I have ever in my whole life. Because I see situations where they're managing things in the same way I did, and I get upset, right? But then I think, I did that. Oh, I did that too. Oh, I also said that once. So I'm like, hey, mom, I'm so sorry. I was such a brat to you. You know, I was such a not nice person in that moment. So I try to relate to what I'm seeing in that moment because that means that I planted it before and try to remember how I felt. And from there, try to approach in a much opening way. Kids are no different than adults in the way of being a human being that deserves respect. So when we treat children with disrespect that sometimes some parents do, or you feel like because you're the parent, you can yell or you can, apply different kind of physical things to them. I wouldn't do that to a friend who is upset. I wouldn't do that to my mom if she's upset. So I just try to think that they're also human and they also have feelings and try to understand where they're coming from without trying to be impositive, and try to do what I think that should be done. In some other places, yeah, we have been in this life at least a little longer and we have more experience, and we can advise them in a better way. So go to your heart, see where you can relate to her in that situation, and think about what you would like to hear for yourself and try to share that with her.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Thank you. Somebody else raised their hand, I think. It was Daria. Do you want to share still, sweetie?
Yeah, I had a question came to my mind, and it's funny that I remember someone else one day was asking this question, so made me think how we all have same problems. So we now speak of groups of people, but then when this border, when I try to keep away from people who don't follow yogic path, and maybe my friends, and where it's in healthy way, but when it's not a healthy way, when you kind of decide that I'm better than them, maybe, and like if I have seen my friends like gossip, so probably because I do that, so maybe keeping away from them is not really not really right right direction to solve the this situation, or like my friends don't support yogi or diamond wisdom. So when is the time when I should like stay away from them because they don't? But when it's in a good way, healthy way, when I like keep more focus on my practice, and when it's the way of being how do you understand, like not in невежество, как по-русски? Not in the right way, not in the wise way, when you just think I'm better than them, they're not so cool, they don't do yoga, they don't know diamond wisdom, not interested, and they like to gossip. So I'm ignorant decision. So I'm just not gonna be friends with them. I'm cool now. I know I do yoga and I'm so cool. I shouldn't stay with these people who maybe were friends with me for many years. So I mean, when is the border when I should stay away from people who are not in practice, but not to become pride person? Where is the moment? Like very busy pride person, busy with their practice.
Thank you. That's an amazing question. And you can all jump into the conversation if you feel you have to share something. I think it depends on the motivation and the intention you have from backing up from those people or maintaining your relationship with them. Like if you're in the way of, oh, I'm so good and you're bad and I'm better than you, and that's why I'm not talking to you, then your motivation is not so pure, is it? I mean, the goal is also helping others. The goal is also supporting others. So if you're sticking with them because you think you can teach them and help them and support them, then they're not affecting your practice. You know, they're boosting your practice. But if you are splitting yourself from them because you think you're a better person and they're not allowing you to continue, then your practice is not so strong. That's how I feel. I don't know. Nasir, do you have something to share?
Yeah, I'd like to. I like to think of it slightly differently, in the sense that one of the key aspects of yoga is that you don't want to be judgmental, because you don't know what the other person's path is and what they're going through, but live by example. So, for example, I don't drink and I don't tolerate bar scenes, but I have friends that like that. So I let them go and I do my own thing at that time. And therefore, I avoid that environment that I'm not comfortable in. Similarly, whether it's a smoky environment or which is unhealthy, so to speak. And in time, you find that some people kind of wake up and say, wait a minute, why are we doing this to ourselves? and then they can turn to you because now you're available. Whereas if you walk away from people like that, you just can't help them anymore. Just a small thought.
Thank you very much, Nasir. And I think that's really, really right. I mean, you're not supposed to be leading your friends and telling them what to do. You are allowing them to be your friends, and you're still sticking to the path. And there's always, as I said, the best formula for each. You will all find your own way of managing around the situations where you feel the most comfortable. Thanks for sharing. Amy here says, I think that it's skillful means. I want to give Dharma with my friends, but I don't want to immerse myself. And I practice with those on the path. So it's keeping the friends you love close, despite they do things that you would not do anymore, but also try to practice with those who share with you the spiritual path. Thank you, Amy. Okay, we just have little minutes left, and I have a last verse for you. I did a lot of research. Thank you. Does anybody feel like reading this last verse? You also have seen it in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, or Hatha. It's from the first course, the verse 16. Does anybody feel like practicing their Sanskrit? I know this is long and hard. Okay, Daria, there you go.
This one looks scary, but I just Utsaha Utsahat Sadhar Yatatvajnanya Cha
Cha.
Nishayat Janasanya Parityagyat Adabir Yoga Prazidhayati.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, when they stick the words together, it's amazing, isn't it? Thank you very much. Okay, next slide, please. There are 6 things that will bring your wild success into your practice of yoga. Joy in the hard work, a firm resolve to do it, consistency in your practice, seeking to understand suchness, steering clear of doubts, and completely avoiding groups of people. So this is the opposite of what we're telling us, right? This is what is going to make your practice worse. This is going to make your practice better. Now, in this sense, can you switch slides, please, Francisco? Thank you. How successful is your practice? I totally fail in number 6. I'm not away from people. I love people. I hang out with people all the time. That's my favorite thing to do. But you cannot be a hermit, you know? I mean, remember these books we're reading by ancient yogis who took the time to put themselves away in caves? We're not going to do that. We're talking about being a yogi in the modern world. But if you're holding to your practice, if you're speaking for a higher truth, if you're getting on your mat, you're doing your meditation, you're coming to class, you're listening to your teachers, you're being kind to others, you're doing the work. Okay? I mean, that should be enough for you to rejoice. You're doing your part every day. I heard Earl say once, plan your life around your practice, right? Not trying to stick your practice into your life because it's not going to fit. So if you start planning your life around your practice and you make your life your practice, that's going to be amazing. We might not be perfect yogis, like textbook-like yogis, but we're trying. We're immersed in this hectic world that is trying to change all the times. We're trying to plant our seeds, changing our seeds, harvesting, following teachings, changing ourselves to become angels. And that's a lot of work all the time. And that could put a lot of stress on you. Okay. So we have the last 7 minutes to reflect on this. If you want to open up your mics and you want to talk about this, that would be great. And then I will give you some announcements. So how successful is your practice now? Daria?
Yes. So I want to share my practice is not that successful when it's come to a not regular working schedule. And also like morning time, my parents getting ready for work, noise in the house. Like I find it completely not possible to practice. Same time when I used to wake up very early, like for 6 a.m. or something, then I find myself so sleepy during the day. And if I don't have opportunity to take a nap, it's a disaster. And also, I found that my practice works very well in late evening. But then I'm like, oh no, I'm again going to sleep very late. What is not good for my health? And like, it's a complete circle. And for me, it's still a challenge. But I know I'm not like busy person with a lot of work or kids or anything. Still, I feel I cannot find this structure for me to plan my life around practice. But recently, I heard the on that one of our teachers, Peter Myrtle, was traveling with Connie O'Brien, and they were having a retreat all day long. So Connie was busy all day long, and he once asked, "How's your meditation going?" She's like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "When are you meditating?" She was like, "Oh, I wake up like 2 a.m. and I have my meditation, then I go back to sleep." And I thought, and I thought it's a cool idea. And shall I try that? Because night is very. This is the time when you can really book for anything, to be available to anything during the day, but in the night I want to try this, and it's very silent. I found I like it to practice when it's dark and everyone's sleeping, so it's very nice because you just not like the space is very silent. So I wanted to try that, but maybe someone else has his ideas. But I know it's different when people have fixed schedule. They can plan every day. Like we have a friend, Dima, other student, very good one. He's like always 2 hours before work. He's practicing, then he goes to work. Like every day he can plan very similar. But when you have a not regular schedule, it's a kind of a challenge to build a place of discipline.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Daria. I've tried the 3 a.m. meditation because I had insomnia and I was like, I'm not going to lose my time on that. I'm just going to go meditate. It was helpful, helped me back to sleep. So you can try it too. Does anybody else want to share something? I mean, we just have some minutes left. Okay. Well, I hope this was very enlightening for you as it was for me. I mean, I really loved to search through the texts what it meant to be a yogi and how am I complying to that. The presentation is available. If you want it, I can share it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to YSI. Don't forget to come to the next Drops of Wisdom session. It will be with Tere and Paz. And also there is, November 6th, there you go. They will be talking and they're amazing. You know them. Well, you know Tere, but Paz is also amazing. So you will love this discussion. And also there's another event for preparing ourselves for the Hatha Yoga Pradipika 4 that will be happening also in November. The Taste of 6 Flavors of Emptiness. Check this out. Check the lineup. Doesn't it look amazing? So take your time, come up, continue working with YSI. We totally love you, and I really appreciate the invite. Thank you very much, Sophie. Thank you to the rest of the team in YSI. I hope this little time with me has helped you in something. It's always a pleasure to see your beautiful faces, and I have this lively discussion that I totally adore. So thank you so much for everything, and have a lovely rest of your day or night, wherever it is that you guys are staying. Love you all. Thank you so much.